We were supposed to show up together at a photo shoot at 2:30 yesterday in Post Falls.
Okay, supposed to show up is
In my mind, we were supposed to show up because it was on the calendar.
gotcha. And we never talked about it. And but again,
Sure, we didn't.
do we need to talk about this after the show? We're doing a mindset show right now.
What I'd like to talk about is that it was completely my fault for not verifying that we were going to work together on it and shoot a quick video.
Well, I would like to take extreme ownership as well and say it was my fault for saying I didn't tell you I was going down there earlier. Nonetheless, we're all good.
Well, it was totally my fault for not getting to you earlier that day to confirm our appointment for 2:30.
Let's talk about mindset, ladies and gentlemen.
You're checking out the Investor Shed podcast with Nick Beveridge and Jeremy Kitchen. They're on the path to financial freedom and they're taking their community with them. Stay tuned for the best free real estate investing advice on the internet.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Actual Investor Shed podcast. Jeremy and I are recording for the first time ever together in the shed in my backyard.
In the original Investor Shed. I'm so happy to be here, Nick. I think we've got a really cool topic today. We don't have a guest, ladies and gentlemen, but we do have a really great topic just about mindset, specifically of a real estate investor or just mindset in general. So hopefully you learn a lot from this episode.
Yes, I hope so too. Why don't we start off right away with talking about this shed? Because it was in my mind 6 years ago.
It was, absolutely. You've been talking about the Investor Shed for so long, and it's nice to see it actually come to fruition and nice to see it actually have a home as well. So.
Yes. Yeah. In 2016, I remember doing a podcast with Aaron Miley up in my guest bedroom upstairs in my house. And I thought it would be the coolest thing to actually have a shed in my backyard that I can record podcasts in and have guests come into the shed, kind of like Mark Maris.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mark Maron, right?
Mark Maron, sorry.
Yep.
Yeah, he does it in his garage.
I know what you're talking about.
But it all started in my mind, and it took a long time to get there because that was 2016. This is 2023. And we called it the Investor Shed Podcast back right when we kind of started in 2020 and didn't really do any actual podcasts in my shed until 2022, late 2022.
Yeah.
And then now we actually have our first guest, which is the co-host, Jeremy Kitchen. But
I love
it counts.
It does count. We count for something, right? So let's kind of dive into this, Nick. Obviously, you've been through a lot. And if anybody hasn't heard Nick's journey, season 3, episode 1, I believe, right? Where we talk in the fall and rise of Nick Beveridge. He goes into his journey physically about what he's done. But he didn't talk about what he had to endure to get there. Specifically, like I said, we're going to be talking about that, and then we're going to be going into other just mindset tips for you today. So it's going to be really good. You're going to want to listen to the entire episode.
The entire one. Yeah. And that first episode, it was called the Rising from the Ashes.
Rising from the Ashes. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Perfect name.
Yep. Good stuff. So let's kind of dive into it, Nick. Like you've been an entrepreneur for how long have you actually been an entrepreneur?
I first became a self-employed real estate agent in right at the start of January 2011.
Okay.
So now it's been almost 13 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And you really have to prep your mind. I think it's really important to go through something as all my self-employed people will probably understand out there. 80% of what you're doing every day is mindset, I think.
Oh, yeah.
The 20% action that gets you the 80% of the results, but 80% of what gets you that 20% most effective actions kind of comes through your mind, and your mind's going to tell you everything you think you believe about yourself.
Yep. One way or another, right? If you believe you can, you believe you can do it. If you believe you can't, same thing, right?
Yeah.
It's weird. Mindset is something I think a lot of people struggle with, and even me, like I feel like I have a decently good mindset.
You have a tremendous mindset.
Right, but
it's grown like crazy in the last couple of years.
But even that, like I still have like my self-doubts, right? And I still like when I feel I can't do it, that's when I can't. It's bizarre how this little blob in your head that can barely power a light bulb can dictate how you live your life.
Oh, dude. Talk about self-doubts.
Mhm.
And I'm not going to tell everybody like I'm this amazing perfect mindset guy. Not at all. I
Right.
have my flaws most of the time, and I've lived in self-doubt for the last couple of years about all this crap I've been going through.
Mhm.
But it's that small 20% of the time where I can just say I'm going to get through this. It's fine. That's when I'm able to get to the next step.
Right. And just going off that too, Nick, I think it's perseverance, which is something that has to go into mindset, and it's a good prep and good framework for mindset. When building perseverance, do you have any tips for people to kind of just to get through the hard things or to even do the hard things?
Yeah, I mean, I have tips galore. Something that comes to mind right away is just going with your gut on, hey, by doing this action, is it going to get me what I want?
Mm-hmm.
Like one of the I think prime examples of someone who is able to make quick decisions no matter how rough times get is like Elon Musk. He has this incredible goal that he's always striving for to get to Mars, get human civilization to Mars, and almost every decision he makes is this going to take us in that direction? And that's why he's the wealthiest man on the planet,
Right.
because every decision he's made is it going to help get the species to Mars?
Mm-hmm.
And so he has to make these large, big decisions constantly to be able to get us to that next step.
I don't even think he has to make the large, big decisions, Nick. I think it's all about the micro decisions he has to
Oh,
make
yeah.
to get to the big decisions, right? Like his whole day, like when he's looking at his, his flow chart or whatever, is this moving the needle in the direction I want to go? Is this action specifically getting me to my destination? And if the answer is not, I'm imagining Elon Musk is the guy who doesn't do it.
Yeah. But he has that big ass goal and he's very clear
Mm-hmm.
and he's got that vivid vision of what things are going to look like in the future as long as he progresses on this path.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like where most people struggle is they don't have a vivid vision or vivid goal in their head of what they want their life to look like
Mm-hmm.
in 5, 10, 20 years. And the reason I brought up the shed right from the start was because I had this in my mind. I was clearly visualizing what this would look like
Right.
6 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it's finally here because every micro step I made, I knew what I wanted this to look like.
Right.
Yeah.
And you executed on that plan, right? Like it's not about just
Took a
the
long time.
idea, it's about the execution of that idea. Because I think you specifically and me, like as entrepreneurs, as people who are in this business, like we probably have millions of ideas flowing around our head. Like, and that's
Oh,
just
yeah.
an understatement, right? Like you grasp at the ones that make sense. And obviously the investor shed has been a goal of yours, and it's nice to see it come to fruition. So
Well, thank you.
yeah,
And thanks for helping make it happen.
of course, absolutely. You touched a little bit on Vivid Vision. Have you read that book?
No, but I've heard Brandon Turner talk about it so many times.
Mhm.
It just made sense. And then who else like really pushed it really hard was Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Okay.
He has a mini series on Netflix, and the very first thing he talks about is that he's always been able to visualize exactly how he wants things to look.
Mm-hmm.
And when he was a little kid, he saw Rich Park in the movies,
Mhm.
this Hercules movie, and he was a bodybuilder and became a movie star. And he was able to know way back then, and as a little kid, oh, I want to get buff
Mhm.
and be a movie star someday through bodybuilding.
Right.
And that was his vivid vision. And he made it happen. But he always harps on that. Like,
Mhm.
you got to have a clear goal to know what you want. And then everything else in life, whether it's easy or hard, it's easier to make decisions. And that's where most people struggle because they don't know where they want to go.
Right. And I do think that's pretty hard too. Obviously, when you look at these successful people, you're seeing the top of the mountain, right? You are seeing
Mhm.
them at their success level. What you aren't seeing is the amount of mental grit and determination it took to get to that goal.
Yeah.
And
Still got to work your ass off.
right, even like you see on you, like you're a pretty successful dude, right? Like people don't understand like the grind that you've had to go through to get to where you're at mentally and physically. It's not only is it exhausting, but a select few of people make it.
Yeah, it's a choice.
It is a choice, absolutely. Maybe we should do a book club. Maybe we should read Vivid Vision and do a recap on that because we're talking about Vivid Vision and we actually haven't read the book, but it is on my list.
Yeah. And I think, the reason I've been struggling the last couple of years so hard mentally is because I actually haven't had a clear vision of what I want the next 5-10 years to look like.
Yeah.
And I finally come to that realization. I had a very clear vision 10 years ago, what I wanted my life to look like. I wanted to be a real estate investor and a real estate agent. I wanted a team of real estate savvy investors. It was so clear to me. I can see it. I can smell it. I wanted rental properties. I wanted to be able to flip homes. And I made all that shit happen.
Right.
But then, unfortunately, I stopped dreaming about other things or new opportunities or new, what am I going to do next? And then I just got hung up in a couple of years ago, all the minutia of living with that and taking on too much. And then I started having that self-doubt of like, shit, do I even want this? Like I made it happen, but this sucks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You were at a crossroads, like, is the juice worth the squeeze that I'm doing? Like, because you were squeezing very hard in order to get that juice.
Hard squeezer.
You're a hard squeezer. We got hard squeezing Nick Beveridge in the house, ladies and gentlemen. But it's true,
like
though.
the nicknames.
Yeah. It's true, though, right? I mean, like, you went through a lot, and your juice squeeze the last year was, for lack of better words, minimal.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Minimal, if any. Like, you had negative juice squeeze.
Very negative. And I think a lot of that could attest to because I lost my vision. I didn't know what I wanted to do anymore. I felt like I hit this climax and then it was like, now what? And I just kind of lost my drive and motivation.
Right.
But we'll put a pin in that.
Okay.
Let's talk about you.
Okay.
I've seen you go through some mental shit in a good way.
Sure. Yeah.
Talk about what you had to go through mentally, if you don't mind. Making the shift to even, decide to quit your job and take the risk to come join me in a business where, when we had a business 10 years prior to that or 15 years prior to that, it didn't go too well.
No, we were bad business people back then.
And you had a daughter to support.
We did, yeah. And I think that's one of the starts of my journeys, to be honest. Like, one of the most mentally taxing and tough things I've ever gone through was a custody battle for my daughter. Without going into all the crazy specifics of it, but it was a 2-year drawn out battle. I had to pick up my daughter from CPS. It was rough, and that was not my fault. That was just me picking up on the other end. So I'm not here to badmouth that party or anything like that either. But bad things happen.
Safe space.
It is a safe space, but like, I'm over it, and that's part of my healing journey. Right? Is that's no longer a part of my identity where I have to be stuck and I have to worry about these things because the problem has since gone, right?
Yeah, and dwelling on it doesn't really get you to where you want to be.
100%. And dwelling on it, and any problem you have, right? Like, the more you dwell on it, your mind is such a weird tool.
It'll give you more.
Yeah, right. Like, your brain is like, oh, you're thinking about this thing. Let me tell you all the negative things that can help you think about this thing, and let me help you keep yourself in this place where you're stuck in a state of anxiety and panic and fear versus a state of growth. It's weird how your mind can play tricks against you, but also it's amazing how your mind can be like the best thing you've ever had.
Yeah. So what was the biggest thing that you learned going through that custody battle?
Perseverance, 100%. I wanted it so bad, and I wanted to have custody of my daughter just because, again, I knew she wasn't in a safe space. It was mentally taxing, financially taxing. It was the most expensive thing I've ever done. Hiring lawyers, continuances left and right. Back then, it was like a $50,000 lawyer bill I had.
Yeah, and you were the father in Washington.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
It was a Washington deal.
Yep. Washington State case,
and
for sure.
Usually, the law doesn't favor the fathers when it comes to custody battles, right?
Typically not. And the mom had to really mess up a lot,
which was no problem for her.
But it was still a problem. I mean, and it was pieces we had to pick up, right?
Yeah.
Just because she didn't show up doesn't mean my daughter didn't want her mom anymore. Those were pieces I did my best to pick up, and you work through it because you're working for a purpose at that point. And the purpose was, I'm providing a safe place for my daughter. I am a stable parent, and we weren't exactly experiencing growth, but we weren't experiencing a negative downward spiral either. Yeah, perseverance definitely is the one thing I would learn from that, because it was tough to get through. I could have given up at any time. Even my family at times were like, we don't blame you if you give up. And I just couldn't.
Oh, really? I didn't know they. So yeah, how do you react to that?
Well, they saw what I was going through, right? So
Yeah.
they saw the taxation that was happening to me. And I think from your parents, you never want to see your kids suffer, right? So they're like, this, you don't have to do this, by
Yeah.
the way. This is a fight. We're here for you if you choose to do it. But also, we're not going to judge you if you feel like this is too much.
Yeah.
I was a 20-year-old kid at the time, right? I was a 20-year-old kid with a kid. And it was a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, can't even imagine.
Yeah.
And you weren't making the kind of income to actually pay for these attorneys.
No.
Yeah.
Whenever I got my tax return every year, it just went right to my attorney.
Yeah. Is that attorney bill paid off?
Yep, that's all paid off. So,
Nice.
Nope, she was great. I love my attorney. She was amazing. She got me everything I needed out of that case. Again, it wasn't hard because when the other party doesn't show up, the court eventually is just like, well, okay.
Yeah.
So tips for legal battles, just make sure the other party doesn't show up, and then you'll get what you want.
That's a pretty good tip. Hopefully everyone wrote that down.
Right.
So,
Yeah, and then I think, like I said, that was the most mentally taxing thing I've ever done, and that really prepared me. I didn't start executing on those, on my perseverance for, it feels like 10 years now, but I got my daughter in a safe place, and we were safe and content, and that's how I stayed for a while. And even being in a safe and content mindset, like, I was not growing. I was not the person I am today 10 years ago.
right.
And you weren't either to attest to that. So, no, I didn't really start learning about, like, mindset and growth and getting out of my shell until I met with you and your team.
Nice.
Yeah. So, I mean, you presented me we talked about this before, obviously, but you presented me the Ginger Snap Media opportunity. I trusted you. I didn't trust exactly owning a photo company or running a photo company, but I trusted
Right.
you along the process.
Yeah.
And in the end, everything worked out okay with that. And, just you put on these REI meetings and you put on all these things. And I learned through all the growth that you provide, like, if I didn't have the REI meetings, if I didn't have you, like, there's a potential possibility I probably still would have been stuck working my 9-to-5 job.
But you knew me, you liked me, and you trusted me.
Right.
And those are big 3 ingredients for influence.
Right. 100%. And your mindset was like, even when we started this thing, you're like, we're not going to let it fail. Like,
Yeah. Okay.
and even if
And
it
there's
does,
backups.
yeah. And even if it did, like, the realization I had was life doesn't end if a business fails,
Right.
and life doesn't end if a venture doesn't go the way you want. Like, we pick up our pieces and we go to the next thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing in this life. Like, the more adversity you go through, it seems like the easier it is to just let, if life's coming at you, just say, bring it on.
Yep.
Like, what else?
Right.
Like, what else do I have to go through? It's
Right.
fine. It just makes you stronger. Whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I mean, it sounds so cliche,
It's true though.
but it's super true.
Yeah, if you don't let it kill you, you continue to fight another day, and if you fight another day, you've basically won. As long as you keep that fight up. I do want to talk just real quick, like, so this is just a subcategory with my wife. She goes through a lot of hypotheticals in her head, specifically with anxiety and everything, but she'll ask me questions like, what if this happens? And what I do to that, and I combat that, is I say, what if?
Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it doesn't have to be like a fire down below, and it doesn't have to be a crash and burn situation. And that's something I have learned with mindset. Like, okay, take the situation as it is. And if it's not a great situation, acknowledge it.
Yeah. So acknowledge it and deal with it.
Mhm.
Okay.
And really face it head on, because if you don't, it lingers, right? Lingers in the back of your mind, and it becomes almost like a cancer in your brain. If you're letting a problem linger without problem solution, it will continue to grow.
And that's like everything.
Right. That is like everything.
Everything you avoid will eventually get bigger. Like this, Jordan Peterson talks a lot about this dragon, that you want to kill the dragon while it's a baby.
Right. Yeah, and that makes sense.
If you walk away from your problems for too long, the dragon will grow into this something that's almost impossible to beat.
Right.
And
that's a good transition. Like, how do we stop the negative spiral?
I think you got to stop, reflect. You got to start appreciating all the things that you do have. you never want to compare yourself against other people, but sometimes it helps.
It's hard. Yeah.
Sometimes it helps to take a few steps back, look at the globe, and be like, "Shit, I've got it really good."
Right.
And something that put me in, I get thrown in my place a lot, but I was on the phone last week with one of my mentors. He's he's a hard money lender that I've been working with for a long time. He's in Florida, and he kind of stopped me as I was complaining for a while. And I love him for this, but he's just like, you know what? With all the problems you have, I would love to trade places with you.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm an old man with a dead wife.
Yeah.
And I don't have much time left. You have a lot of time left, and you've learned a lot, and your potential is almost unlimited.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's great. I mean, like, I know who you're referencing to, obviously, too, but yeah, when you zoom out and you look at your problems on a global scale, obviously, like, they're not that big in accordance to everything else that's going on in the world, but I do think people get caught up in victim mentality.
Yes.
And I'm guilty of it too.
Me too.
Of it too, right? And it's so hard breaking yourself of that habit of being like, this is happening to me. This is happening to me. I need to blame other people, and not taking accountability for your actions, right?
Yes.
Eventually, you need to stop blaming other people. And even if the problem is with other people, stop blaming them. Be like, okay, this is a problem. How do I fix this? Or what can I do personally to change the outcome?
Yeah, because something I've learned, when you do blame people for your problems, you're just giving power away.
Right.
And it's just delaying the process of moving forward in life. As soon as you can finally say, okay, you know what? The truth is, I'm the one that partnered with that person. I'm to blame.
Right.
I could have done better. I'm to blame. And then and then it's just done. You move on to the next thing. You acknowledge what happened, and you said, "This is how I'm going to fix it," and you go. But when you blame, nothing gets done.
Right.
And it just makes things worse.
And just to reference this, like, we had like a little tiny, it wasn't even a tiff yesterday, but we had a miscommunication, right?
You're bringing this up again. I knew he'd bring it up again.
No, there's a real solution to this, right? Because
I threw out the F word just to be safe. And it was kind of a joke too, but I said, it's fine.
You did say it's fine.
In text with no other communication. And that's something you do when you're in heavy traffic, I guess.
Apparently, when you're driving a Tesla that drives itself, you say it's fine with no punctuation or exclamation points or a smiley face. That makes sense. Noted. No, but I just want to talk about it because I think we both took extreme ownership for that situation. And
yeah, we always try to take the accountability and the blame.
I was like, well, maybe I didn't communicate well enough with you, maybe this, and you were like, we didn't do that, and, I didn't do this, and I didn't think I was going to show up, and we're not holding a grudge because of it.
And I try to look at the glass half full.
Right.
At least I didn't have to pay for a video. I did my own video. I got the lockbox on the door, and I was out of there real quick.
Right. And I got your photos done in like record time yesterday, so it was all good. But
people have no idea what we're talking about.
That's okay.
We were supposed to show up together at a photo shoot at 2:30 yesterday in Post Falls.
Okay, supposed to show up.
In my mind, we were supposed to show up because it was on the calendar.
Gotcha. And we never talked about it. But again,
Sure, we didn't.
Do we need to talk about this after the show? We're doing a mindset show right now.
What I'd like to talk about is that it was completely my fault for not verifying that we were going to work together on it and shoot a quick video.
Well, I would like to take extreme ownership as well and say it was my fault for saying I didn't tell you I was going down there earlier. Nonetheless, we're all good.
Well, it was totally my fault for not getting to you earlier that day to confirm our appointment for 2:30.
Let's talk about mindset, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, let's kind of talk about what you've done, Nick. Obviously, I know we've talked a lot about the physical journey you've went through. I don't think we've talked about the taxation it's actually had on you.
Yeah.
And how you're able to overcome that. Because, again, I see everything you've gone through. You told me the ins and outs of your life. And I always appreciate seeing you when I appreciate seeing you when you struggle.
Yeah.
Not in a bad way, but I know in my heart that I'm like, Nick will figure it out.
Yes.
Because you do, and that's just something you do. How do you get to that point, though?
Me personally, I have to constantly stop myself take a few steps back and just be like, dude, I have it so good. I've got great kids. I've got a car. I've got a house that I'm not going to lose. It's got a very low payment.
Right.
My wife still loves me.
Yeah.
I still love her. And it doesn't matter what's going on at work, because when I die someday, I'm not going to be like, hey, I wish I spent more time at work, or I wish I bought a few more homes, or I wish more of them were profitable, So it's just a lot of stopping myself, reflecting, and also, I got to stop the blame thing. I think what hits me the hardest is like I keep trying to want to blame things.
Right.
Blame other people for my problems. Blame somebody else for not paying my bills.
Yep.
But blame somebody for not showing up to work when I could have easily called 7 other people.
Right.
There's all these things that I wanted to constantly blame, and that's what drags me down more than the situation itself, because the situations, fortunately, I have to go through as a real estate investor don't really affect my well-being unless I allow it to.
Right.
You know?
So you're your own blocker, or you're your own barricade for the good and the bad in your life. Yeah.
And the truth is, it's just numbers in a spreadsheet or in my bank account. Sometimes it's really high, sometimes it's really low, but it's not really I still show up to work every day.
Right.
I'm not going to go bankrupt.
Right.
I'm doing very well. I still have a couple other houses. Yeah, it sucks almost, for the last couple of years, it seems like every week I have a new 20 grand expense.
Yeah.
But it hasn't, I'm not pushing a shopping cart around the streets.
Right.
Shitting in dumpsters.
Yeah, you're right.
It's, my problems are very first world. And they really aren't, I don't have to look at them as problems. They're learning opportunities. And fortunately, I'm still in the game. Yeah. And I get to stay in the game. And I've gone through, the deeper I look into my past, I'm glad I'm not there. I used to, like in high school, I was a very emotionally awkward person. Big surprise.
Weird.
Super shy. Always had a chip on my shoulder and wanted to prove the world I'm something better.
Right.
And then, I go through the homeless thing.
You've been there?
I moved from when I was 18 from Phoenix to Florida to be with my girlfriend. And then I found out she was cheating on me with her roommate. And so I was like, oh, shoot. Okay, so I'm moving to Florida. I'm new at this being an adult thing. Very new at it.
Yep, you were.
And I have no place to go. And so I immediately, for the first 6 months, I was basically on the streets and just had to learn tough life lessons immediately.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not in that position anymore.
Right.
If I can reflect back on what I've gone through there, I'm okay. And then a few years later, I had seizures.
Right.
And I'm not in that. I don't have health issues anymore.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about when am I going to have my next seizure? Is it going to be a couple hours from now? 4 hours from now?
Am I
like, I don't have that. I'm not in that constant state of anxiety. I don't have to be watched in the showers anymore. I've got that phase of my life is gone. This new adversity that I'm facing it's just business struggles.
Right.
I feel like if I can take a few steps back and see what I've gone through, it helps me just be like, oh yeah, I can get through this because I don't want to be back there.
Sure.
I just got to keep pushing forward.
Yeah. And that's something you've had to learn. Those are life lessons that have had to happen to you in order for you to figure out how to overcome them, right? And the thing about that too, like what you're saying is you're your own blocker for this. So like you won't allow yourself to be homeless again because you know what it takes to not be homeless, and you know what it takes to be homeless. Like you know the actions that will get you to be homeless.
And what got me to be homeless, I blamed a bunch of landlords for not approving my application.
Right.
Because I was too young and didn't have any credit. The truth is, and I'm finally going to admit this to myself and everybody else, I just didn't try hard enough.
Sure.
I didn't talk to enough. I didn't apply to enough apartments.
Right.
I didn't ask anybody if I can be a roommate. I just played victim, be like, and I probably went to 3 or 4 apartment complexes and I got declined. And so I just said, okay, I guess I'm homeless and the world hates me and this is unfair.
Yep.
So I'm just going to be homeless.
But, and that goes into like, you don't know what you don't know, right? Because it's so hard to break out of that victim mentality if you don't know how to get to the other side. And if people could just get over that hump, right? Like I do think, I'm not saying this with all problems, obviously. There are some legitimate problems that, science, money, or anything can't solve. And that's just a thing. But if you take a look inward at yourself and take a look inward at your actions, like, again, you and I have been in this business long enough to know that, like, okay, if one lender doesn't approve you,
Yeah. You can go
do
to
you,
another.
do you quit?
No.
No, you don't
You
quit.
only fail when you quit.
Yep, you fail when you quit. Then that's absolutely correct. And I don't know who the quote is, so I'm sorry if I'm going to misquote this, but if you think you're right or if you think you're wrong, you're right.
That was Jesus.
Jesus himself said that then. Did he?
I think so. I mean, it goes back a long ways.
Okay, yeah. Either way, it's very, very old quote, right? If you think you're wrong or you think you're right, either way, you are correct. It's bizarre, man. Like, how do you get over those humps if you don't know what's on the other side? Like goal setting, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of different tactics out there, but it's all in your head.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just surround yourself. The easiest hack in life to get what you want is to surround yourself with other people that have what you want.
Right.
And then just do what they do.
Exactly.
And then you're done. You can stop listening to this podcast and everything else and just do those things and you'll get what you want. And then someday you might get it and realize, hey, I don't know if I really want this.
Yeah.
We'll find something else.
Are you chasing someone else's dream or are you chasing what you actually want?
Ooh, that's deep.
That's deep, right?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people specifically in our industry are kind of batting and swinging wide, if I say so myself. Like, they don't know what they want.
Yeah.
They want to move the needle forward, but they don't know what forward looks like, and they don't know which direction forward is. Like, I have a meeting with a guy today, like I told you, and I'm like,
Yeah.
he doesn't know, if he wants to go north, south, east, or west. And I'm going to be providing a little bit of clarity, but another old saying, like, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink, right? Like, I can show you how to do all of this. I can show you how to build a business. I can show you how to make $10,000 in a week. Like,
Yeah.
It's weird. Like, we used to be so worried about money, and now, like, if I ever am just like, I need $10,000, I can just go make it or manufacture it very quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, because you've learned skills.
Right.
And you can work your ass off.
Right.
And if you can work your ass off
Mhm.
and you know some things or you learn from your mistakes or you take accountability, it's amazing how far ahead you're going to be of your, you know, call it competition or just the 80% of the people that are in the way on the sidewalks.
Yeah. And like, my wife and I specifically, for example, like, we're thinking of ways right now to, like, how can we make more money or how can we get more money? And we both have a lot of just really great ideas coming.
Yeah. But now, do you have a vivid vision of what you're going to do with that money?
No,
Yeah.
to be honest, I absolutely don't. So, but we know we want to get out of our debts, our bad debts at least, and we're trying to just accelerate how we can get approved into another house.
Okay.
And it breaks down to, like, okay, so we can either make more money, or we can, start new businesses, or we can pay off debts, or it can be a combination of all these. So we're going to pay off the debts to get more money to buy another house.
Okay.
So
do you think you'd have a little bit more motivation or drive or at least clarity if you just set yourself a goal of, okay, we want to save up 50 grand to pay off these things.
Yep.
And to throw 25 into this. Like, do you have any of those kind of clear goals, or is it right now just
right now
we're just putting in the systems?
We're putting in the systems right now
more effective.
but we do have it's a lofty goal, but I love that we did it. We're going to make $100,000 of extra income in the next 12 months.
Okay, cool. So you got that vision then.
Right. We've got the fence down, but we don't know what we're going to do with it. If it's either going to be paying off bad debts or buying another house first.
Yeah.
I don't quite know what we're going to do with that, but we'll take that as it comes, I think.
Okay.
So, starting side businesses and seeing what we can do with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what have you learned recently that kind of made you shut up for a few minutes just to digest it? Is there anything mindset wise? Because I know you read a lot of books.
Mm-hmm. I do.
You consume a lot of new interesting content.
I do.
Is there anything out there that you didn't already kind of know on some level that you've learned?
I feel like I learn something new every day, and if I'm not learning, I'm not doing something right, to be honest with you. Like, I have an always learning mentality, and I'm fully aware knowing that I don't know anything. And I think that's the best thing I can teach is that we know nothing.
Yes.
And I'm not ignorant that there is other knowledge out there, because there is a substantial amount of knowledge out there. But if you want to learn specific things, obviously, like Nick was saying, like surround yourself A, with the people that are doing that. And then B, I would say surround yourself with the knowledge and the books, because no matter what the subject is, I guarantee you there's books on it.
Yeah.
If you want to save money, there's books on saving money. You want to do real estate investing, there's books on real estate investing. Do you want to start small businesses? Books. You're right. Go on YouTube and find this stuff. Most of it's for free.
Free.
And if you take the steps, because you do have to take the steps and you do have to take the action in order to succeed at anything. So if you get a plan, take the steps, and fire.
And then add in some accountability there.
Accountability, for sure. I think that's a
Like
really
you
good
got your
point.
wife. That's awesome.
Yep.
But the accountability piece is something that I think stops most people from taking consistent long-term action.
I agree. Not only the accountability, but the fear of being judged. And I think
Yes.
that's what accountability all is. Like, this doesn't matter to me. It's all about, if we had an accountability group and I wasn't doing what I was supposed to, I have to face your wrath. And that's more like it's facing my own wrath, but directed back at me, because you're not disappointed in me, but you're letting me know that I'm messing up on some level or another.
Yeah. So I'm going to give you a secret of why my real estate sales business is so successful.
Okay.
I put in a little fail-safe, if you want to call it that, of accountability with the general public by making this REI group a monthly meetup that I posted out there that didn't have an end date, and it was recycled the first Thursday of each month.
Yep.
6:30, and it was out there on multiple different platforms, and I booked the room indefinitely at my office. And I knew that I had to show up to that, because even if I canceled it, people were going to show up. Because people don't always pay attention to every brand new email or anything like that. And it fears me to disappoint people.
Right.
I don't ever want to cancel one of these events and know that people are showing up at a locked door at night, because it happened during COVID. Even when we put out all the warnings.
I was gonna say
it happened when we switched offices and we went from one office to the other. So I know there's that accountability aspect of the action taking that I had put in place that's just automatic. And I think that's the biggest secret to our team's success, is that we are accountable to the general public for doing this thing.
Right. Your consistency, I will say, is off the charts with that. You've been doing the REI event for how long?
Almost 9 years.
Almost 9 years. And just for anyone listening, how many first Thursdays of the month have you missed?
None.
None. And you were absolutely right on that number.
Yeah.
I was going to say, because you brought up the COVID thing as well. I know when everything was all online, we set up in the office.
Yep.
You still had people coming to the office for the REI meetings that were locked out because we couldn't let them in.
But we did it online.
We
Still did it. We only did that for a couple of months, and then we opened the doors back up.
Yep. You always had a guest, and you guys would be sitting on separate sides of the table or whatever. And yeah, I remember that. That was you'd have people beating on the Keller Williams door and getting all these messages like, why can't we come in? You told us there's a meeting the first Thursday of the month and we can't get into the meeting. What am I going to do with my time?
Trust me, I want to be there.
Yeah.
It's weird COVID times. Nobody understands what's going on.
Yeah, we didn't.
Go on Facebook.
Yeah,
We're here.
on Facebook. Go to Facebook.
We're here on Facebook.
But even during that, like, you didn't miss a day.
No, I couldn't. Because that was one thing. I was able to commit to that one time a month, and it was in my calendar, and I had to show up to it. And there's been a couple of times where I haven't. I had food poisoning once, but somebody else did it for me.
Sure.
So that, like, we're still accountable to the public, and we still had to have somebody else run it.
Right.
I remember the third meeting I had, actually it was the second one I had. I had somebody else run it.
Okay.
Because I was getting married.
Okay. Yep.
And no, I'm sorry. It was the third meeting. Yeah, I did the first two, and then I had somebody do the third one for me because I was getting married in Mexico. Other than those 2 times, I've never missed one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You missed one when we were in Mexico last year.
Oh,
Tyler Wagner ran it.
Taylor. Okay.
Yeah. So somebody
missed
ran
it.
it.
Never mind.
The meeting happened.
The meeting always happens.
Right. The meeting always happens, no matter who's doing it. And like you're saying with accountability too, like it goes into consistency.
Yeah.
And consistency, you'll hear this a lot in the industry. Consistency beats intensity 100% of the time, right? Like if you were doing these meetups once a year, and you were just like, hey, once a year, July 15th, or sometime in July, because you just don't know, but we're gonna have a huge meetup, right?
Yeah.
Who would show up?
Probably a few.
Probably a few. You were right.
Yeah.
Do you think
But-
you'd have the 70 to 80 that you consistently have show up?
No, but I mean, it's a business that requires gasoline, and I
Right.
feel like having these meetings is like the gasoline,
Right.
And we can't get very far if we don't constantly have new people to talk to on a consistent basis, or maintaining the people that we already talk to.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just our way of constantly growing and maintaining our client database.
Right. And this, I like what you said there with the metaphor. It goes with putting gas in the vehicle, but you, at the end of the day, you need to realize what gas does, or what kind of fuel does your vehicle take, right?
Yeah. Or your mind. Like
Right. Exactly.
what do you need to motivate you every day? And can you consistently do something?
Right.
One of the biggest things I've learned over the last few years is like, I have so much more energy when I just drink a shit ton of water.
Oh yeah, me too.
When you're well hydrated and it doesn't cost much. But you start creating these habits that either work for you or against you.
Right.
And I do this last year, I've worked on really hard on trying to get consistent workout habits and nutrition habits and fluid intake habits. And I think it served me well.
Yeah.
It was the first time I ever had a 6-pack, I think.
That's awesome. And that goes directly into mindset too. Like your habits are directly feeding your actions. And I can't remember which guest we had on, but it was someone last season, but they talked about, building a habit. How long does it take to build a habit? And the answer was indefinitely. People always say like, it takes 21 days to build a habit.
66.
66. It's bullshit one way or another. Let me tell you, because a habit only works if you continue doing it. The day you stop doing your habit is the day you no longer have a habit.
Yeah.
Right?
You pick up a new habit.
Then you pick up a new habit to take its place. But these actions are directly proportionate to your success.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Totally.
Way far totes.
Where are we going with this next?
Totalitarian.
So let's talk more about just mindset and kind of digging into that, obviously. Say you were at ground zero, and again, you don't know, you don't have people you can rely on, you don't have an accountability group, you don't know how to set a goal, you don't know how to keep yourself accountable. What do you do?
Well, you're never going to hold yourself accountable. I've learned that. No matter how strong you think you are in the head, you've got to have somebody else or something holding your feet to the fire, because eventually it's going to be too hot.
Right.
You're going to run away.
Josh Cote talks about this too. One of your ex-agents now, I suppose.
Yeah.
But he talks about, there's no such thing as self-accountability. I had him on one of my little YouTube shorts. We were talking about this. There's only self-capability, right? So am I capable to do this thing? If the answer is yes, then you do the thing. Otherwise, you're not going to do it. And right. So you need to hold yourself capable.
Yeah. And you know what? It's really not too hard. If you want to hold yourself accountable to something, it's 2023. There's support groups for like everything, anything you can think of. Even if you just want to play D&D regularly.
Yeah.
There's groups out there that you can find online that will happily have you come to their house and make new friends, and that's what you do. Or if you want to invest in real estate, or do pottery. All these, anything you can imagine. You just got to get around the people that are doing it regularly, and there's groups out there for it. And if there isn't one, start one.
That's a really good point. Honestly, like it is 2023. It is so easy to find people to network with. It's so easy. I'm sure there's an app for something you want, right? Like if you're not doing it and you're not taking these actions to get there, you're going to continue failing and you're going to continue being in a victim mindset. Like there's apps I've downloaded that like can help me with my finances. There's apps that help me like, are you reading this much a day? And I just click the button for my own accountability, right? Like,
Yeah, anything you want. There's
Anything.
apps for sex, and I had no idea until I was deep into a relationship.
yeah,
You can these days, kids can just go on an app called Tinder, and it's like, I need my sex, and there's somebody else out there that's like, I also need my sex. Swipe,
yeah.
and then you just do it. Just kidding.
You know.
I haven't done it before ever. I'm married, but
Well, me too.
it's amazing. There's an app out there for whatever you need.
Yeah.
So you might as well use it. And if you don't know what app or you're stuck at searching, go to ChatGPT and type in, I'm looking for an app that does something like this. Can you make some recommendations?
Yeah. And again, it's all about who you talk to too, because if you want to do these things, you just surround yourself with the people doing them. And you are definitely the sum of the 5 people you hang out with the most.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think, Nick? Do you have any other closing thoughts on mindset or any other tips and tricks you want to share?
There's plenty of tips and tricks. I think the biggest trick is to, you can change your mindset immediately in an instant. And one of the quickest ways to do that is through music. So if there's some really good music that you're into, just turn on music and it will change your state of mind just like that.
Right.
And then, and then your emotions come from motion. So if you feel like you're always sluggish and just not in a good mood, working out's going to help.
Yep.
Working out's the ultimate anxiety reliever out there. It's going to work way better than a pill, according to science.
Yep.
Not according to me.
Yeah, this has been proven. This is not just Nick talking.
Yeah. I'm not this isn't bro science, but if you're out there, if you do a clean 45-minute workout, your anxiety levels are going to go down. And people get anxiety from what I heard, and I could be wrong on this, but the reason why anxiety is through the roof is because most people don't work out.
Yeah, I believe it.
And they have all this shit built up inside of them, and they don't know what to do because they're sitting at a computer all day, and they just get anxious, and it's because their body wants to move or they're gonna die.
Right.
And it's a survival mechanism.
Not only that, so people like aren't working out, but I do think people are spending entirely too much time like diverged in their phones or diverged into technology or diverged into Netflix shows or whatever.
The content's amazing. There's so many good shows out there. It's hard not to just on a pretty day just sit on the couch and watch one thing after another because you don't have to fuck with commercials anything.
It's hard. The way the world works now is it's hard to get off your phone and it's hard to actually get out and go do a thing.
Yes.
It's so weird, but like what you were saying about working out, yes, 100%. But I hear people all the time being like, "Oh, I can't work out," and it's all like, excuses. And to myself, instantly, I think like, okay, if you want something, that light went out. That's okay.
I thought it would last.
That's okay.
91% battery life isn't going to last more than 47 minutes. Note that.
We'll take a note for next time. But I hear people that say like, "Hey, I can't work out" or whatever, and I say can't is such a word that will like beat you down into submission, right? I can't do this. I can't do that. Why can't you? Like, what's stopping you from taking 2 minutes out of your day? Like, if you took 2 minutes of action today and you didn't take 2 minutes of action yesterday, you are effectively so much better off than you were yesterday because you took action on the thing. Doesn't need to be massive action, but if you take marginal action, right, you're still making progress.
Marginal action. That would be that'd be a good butter.
Marginal action. Was it margin? What's it?
Margarine?
Margarine.
Something like that?
Yeah, margin.
I don't know.
Margin is a difference in margarine.
Oh, I know.
Okay.
It just sounds like a good butter.
It does sound like a good butter. Maybe we need to do a butter business as well.
We need more businesses.
Yeah, but seriously though, like, if you take minimal action as opposed to no action, you're still better off than you were the day before. And then if you do those 1% increments daily, like how long will it take you until you're just a big buff man if that's all you were doing working out?
I don't know, 6 months?
Yeah.
Not too long.
Right.
But then you gotta maintain that and you gotta do something else too. I think what a lot of people struggle with is not having a clear vision for what they want.
Yeah. I agree.
And I think that's going to, I mean, if you can take away anything from today's talk, I know we're going on 50 minutes here. If you don't have a clear vision for what you actually want, it's going to be hard to get there.
Yes. I 100% agree with
And
you,
you're
Nick.
always going to struggle mentally.
Right.
Just don't blame.
And you talked about music a little bit earlier too, just kind of touching on that. Like you can use music as a trigger to get to other things. Like if you listen to music only when you work out, or you say I'm going to listen to this song specifically before I go read or before I go better myself in another way, like use that trigger to your advantage.
Yeah.
Right? And
it's
you
a cue.
build that little tiny habit to just push into your bigger habit.
Totally agree.
Right? So even if that's just while you're sitting and watching Netflix, like, and you can multitask with this stuff. I don't ever recommend it, but you can. Like, I like to work out when I'm watching my shows.
Yeah.
Right?
John Wick.
Mm-hmm.
I like to watch John Wick while running on a treadmill.
Yeah. And like I'll give myself a treat after I go to the gym. So after I go to the gym, I buy myself a Wendy's Frosty. But that to me,
I don't recommend that, by the way.
No, I don't recommend that. But like, if I do like an hour and a half workout and I buy a 10-ounce Frosty, like that's my treat. Like I earned that.
That's what you want,
right? And that's reward driven behavior is what that is. Like
Yes.
I want a Frosty. How do I get a Frosty? I go work out. That's how I have to get my Frosty. And if I want that Frosty, I have to go work out.
Got to go earn it.
Yep, I got to earn that Frosty, exactly.
Yeah.
And I know that like negates working out. It's not that big, but like.
But if you don't go earn it in that fashion, you're going to pay for it in other ways.
Right, 100%.
Yeah.
So
you're going to have diarrhea and you're going to gain 1.5 pounds.
Right, rather than just diarrhea and gaining half a pound.
Yes, you're going to have diarrhea either way when you have those Frosties.
Oh, that's good. Okay. But yeah, anyway, like I said, just it's called habit stacking. Have you read Atomic Habits?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, same thing, right? Like
Yep.
It's the juice at the end.
It's the juice.
Yep. And there's different ways to do it. You can do the juice before, and then you can go do the thing, but you have to be accountable for that. And I found the best way to be accountable is to do the action that needs to be done first before you get the reward.
Yes. That's a good point.
Yeah.
So Jeremy, what's the biggest thing that you're going to work on before the end of the year? We're in October.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any stretch goals? I know you're going to have a kid in January, right?
Yeah. Mid-January.
What's the biggest thing that you want to accomplish before the end of the year?
Man, right now we're just making sure my wife's comfy, and I'm just making sure she's got a safe place to feel all of her feelings while being pregnant.
All right.
So we're just really focusing on each other right now and not trying to overcomplicate things.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to simplify right now. But then again, like I said, we have that 1 year goal of raising an extra $100,000 or creating an extra $100,000. I think we can do it.
I agree.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I want $100,000 sitting in a specific bank account. I want it to have 6 digits.
You and Sam are pretty amazing. You guys do real good work.
We're doing good.
And you've both became entrepreneurs this year, right?
Yep.
And you guys are just taking your industries by storm, or whatever you want to call it. It's amazing how quickly you can be this busy,
Right.
Because I don't know if you're
I'm
just
too busy.
You're trying to make as much as you can before the kid comes, because then you're going to take a break and be a good father.
Mm-hmm. I'm assuming we
what?
will do that as well. But right now, like I'm in the spot of like I can work very hard, so I am working very hard.
Yeah, I remember when I found out Hillary was pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I ever worked harder.
Yep.
Those 9 months while she was pregnant.
Yep. And that could be why. Honestly, like I haven't put the two and two together, but just
some sort of a natural instinct just kicked in. Like, oh shoot, I got to act like a squirrel and start putting away.
Yep.
all
How do
these
I
nuts.
provide?
Yeah.
Right.
How do I go collect nuts and dig them?
Yep. And put them in a hole.
Put them in a hole. Keep digging.
What are you working on for the rest of the year?
My biggest goal is I just want to get all the construction projects finished.
Cool.
And it's gonna happen.
Cool.
And it's gonna be just such a weight lifted off my shoulders. But I know as soon as that happens, I'm gonna be sitting there like, what's next?
Cool. So
what kind of nonsense or trouble can I get myself in now? Because that's the way I've always been my whole life, I feel like.
Right. Can I take a brief detour on this? So obviously you have a goal of getting all this construction stuff done by the end of the year. Now I'm going to ask you how you accomplish your goals. Do you start at the bottom and go from the top, or do you work backwards on your goals?
Give me more details.
Okay. So if you were to, say you wanted to get all this construction stuff done. Obviously, like, you can start down here, like, well, I need to call contractors, I need to do this, and then I need to do this. Like, do you have these steps all lined out, or is it just like a blanket kind of goal?
It is more strategic than I'm leaning on. There's just a certain, in construction, you need to get certain things done before you can move on to the next thing.
Right. Okay.
And really, all the construction is going to be done in just a couple of weeks.
Right.
But it's us in my head. It's like I got to sell these properties.
Sure.
So I got to make them look very nice and priced very well, and then hopefully figure out how to sell them without having to bring so much damn money to the closing.
Right. Right.
So, but my goal is just to get all these bad projects off my plate, finished, so I can start the new year feeling like a refreshed human that has the mental mind space to focus on new stuff and not know, hey, I should be spending 80% of my time on these big problems.
Right. 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 Have you heard of the SMART goals? Like the acronym for that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you go into those real quick for me?
Yeah. SMART. Sophisticated.
I don't think it's sophisticated. I'm missing the S. In my head.
It is systematized,
Systematized,
measurable, actionable, retarded, retain your
realistic,
timing,
and time frame. Yes, correct.
I was so close.
You did really good.
So close.
Yeah, but I do think you're right. So systematic, measurable. What was it? Action, yep. actionable, realistic, and timetable. So if you break your goals down into those 5 steps, it will make it you will have a clearer and more vivid vision on how to attain them.
True that.
Yeah, I love it.
Jeremy, what can people expect from you?
Well, they can expect me not to play with a pen on a podcast.
They don't care. No one's listening at this point.
They might be. And if they are, we love you, by the way.
Hey, if you are listening, can you comment on one of our platforms and tell me what you think of these lights? If I should buy more of these and just have them kind of hidden around the room where they glow a little green. Or I know nobody's listening at this point. But if you are out there listening, comment about these stupid lights, would you?
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, if you're listening, Nick Beveridge will give you $10,000. All you got to do. This is a guarantee. I give everybody else
10,000, so why not?
Why not, right? No. But no, if you're listening to the podcast, we would love to know if you're listening. We would also love it if you gave us a 5-star review. It really helps for the show get visible and get seen by more people. Even if you don't like the show and you like us, just give us a 5-star review. Honestly, that would mean the world to us. So,
we know the show's not that great, but we promise you, the more we do this, the better we're going to get, the better speakers we will become. Jeremy's already pretty damn good at that.
Help you.
I need a lot of work, and to do that, we need comments.
Listen, we love it when people talk and say nice things about us. Like, it makes me feel so good knowing that somebody loves a thing I've made. And I know Nick feels the same way. Like,
oh yeah,
I love it, man. I live for the comments. I live for the good. When people tell me I did a good job, it just fills my little heart up.
What I do, anytime anybody says congratulations or something like that, I will get a tape recorder on my phone, record it, and I will say what people said. Like Jake said, congratulations. This person said, nice work, Nick. You're doing real good. And I will make a big tape, and then I'll play it to myself over and over again to go to sleep to.
We should print off some of your Facebook comments when you do good things. I know you're referencing to the video you made yesterday about you selling your house. So.
No, actually what I was referencing, I'm kind of joking. I'm listening to the book by David Goggins.
Okay.
And he goes through all his negative comments and he talks into his phone and he says, this person said, I'm a piece of shit, poser. and he'll just like constantly read all the negative comments and he'll make like a 30-minute tape and then he'll loop that shit and go to sleep to it so that he can wake up furious the next morning and hit the streets.
If you want to learn about mindset, David Goggins is a man of nature. He's a beast of nature.
He is a beast.
you have to have a strong stomach for him, though. I will say that, because he's gonna call you out on your bullshit, and if you can't handle it, you probably don't deserve the greatness that he's at. So
He's a hardcore man.
he is.
I want to be him someday.
I just want to hang out with him.
Yeah. Well, you want to take us out?
Yeah. Again, thank you everybody for listening or watching, however you're choosing to indulge in this content. Again, 5-star reviews are super great. If you send a 5-star review, actually take a picture of it and send it to us so we can actually thank you on one of our platforms as well. I think that'd be really great.
Yes.
Nick, always a pleasure. This is a great first time being in the Investor Shed podcast with you. Thanks for building such a cool studio, even though one of your lights went out, but we'll fix that.
It just needs to be plugged in, y'all.
Yeah, just needs to be plugged in. Just like your mind. Plug your mind in, but not to Netflix. Plug your mind in to success.
You can do Netflix for an hour a day, maybe. I don't know. It's up to you guys.
You're not helping.
Okay. Have a good day. Bye.
Thank you so much for checking out the Investor Shed podcast. If you enjoyed your time, make sure to leave a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Follow along on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram at The Investor Shed for shorts and promos about each episode. Do you want to be a guest or know someone who has great real estate investing advice and stories? Reach out to us at theinvestorshed@gmail.com.